The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross.
John chapter 11, verse 32 to verse 44. That's the gospel according to John, not the other one. Let's turn to the book of John, chapter 11, verse 32 to 44. Then we read a story over there. John, gospel according to John, not the epistles. Yeah. As you are going through the message, we'll come back to some of the verses too. Yeah, just read parts for now. Yeah, anyone?
Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit with trouble, was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, Behold, how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused that even this man should not have died? Jesus therefore, again, groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he had been dead 4 days. Jesus said unto her, Said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me.
Okay, so actually that's the story of Lazarus. So I'm sure that most of you have heard about it. Like the story is so significant that I have a whole chapter that has been devoted to the story of Lazarus. Yeah, but I just wanted us to read part of it so that we'll be able to economize our time. And if you read the story, the kind of things that you see, like the great display of power, is something that really puts like great confidence in you. Like that's when this is one of the moments where you see, like you feel very glad and very confident that you have such a master who has power over death, who can raise people from the dead. And like it puts really great confidence in you as in Jesus Christ as your Savior, as your Lord. Right? But I believe that this message is not just a message for dead people, like just to tell you that one day if you die, God can raise you back into this life, which of course is not something that is really important to us. You know, we all know that you are going to a better place. So it's not about God raising you back to come into this earth. But it has a message for us who are still living. And like that's the message. I want us to get a message now, like the message that it has for us who are still living. But the great message I believe is in this story is that God has power over time. As in, like God Himself, He doesn't live in time. And okay, for us to, I don't know if you really understand, but when they say God doesn't live in time, it means that He's not affected by the fact that time is moving. See, He doesn't grow, like He has been there forever and He hasn't changed. So He lives outside of time. And the fact that He has power over time is something that should put a lot of confidence into us as we go ahead to finish this lesson. Okay, first of all, I would like us to read certain statements that are made by people in the story. So we'll go back to. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I've been upgraded. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so I'd like us to read certain statements that are made by people in this story. Okay, we'll go back to the whole passage, but not the whole passage, but we'll go back to certain verses in the passage. First, I want us to read verse 21 and 22. I think the same person read. Did you close it? Okay.
Then said Martha unto Jesus,
Yes.
Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died.
Okay.
But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee.
Now verse 32.
32.
Yeah.
Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died.
Okay, now verse 37. The last one.
And some of them said, could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused that even this man should not have died?
Okay, so the first one was Martha, the second one was Mary, then the other one was it was made by certain Jews that were there to mourn. And if you look at all these three statements, they were all saying the same thing, right? Yeah, they were all saying that Jesus Christ was late, and they were saying that God had delayed his answer. Yeah. And, well, we as human beings, right, because of the nature of the fact that we are temporal, and we age and all that, we use watches, we live according to seasons and calendars and all that, and all our plans are limited on time. You know that if you plan to do something and the time passes, or you pray for something and the time passes, you don't really have the power to recover the effect of that lost time. So because of these very facts, we end up transferring this particular limitation we have because of time. We end up transferring it into our prayers, into our expectations of God. And when you pray to God, you place a time limit on it. I'm sure there are so many people that maybe you had certain things that you wanted God to do for you last year. And according to your plans, that thing was supposed to happen last year. So because the year is over, you feel that, okay, well, since that thing was supposed to serve you in last year and the year has ended, then it's over. That's for God too, it's over. And well, it's not too surprising. It's just by nature. It's just by the fact that we see things aging around us. We realize that when time passes, there are so many proverbs about time that when it passes, we can't get it back. And of course, that is true. And well, it's even the world around us also tells us it keeps putting us in that kind of state where we continuously wonder and we are scared because of time. We are always living according to our watch and we are looking at the calendar and we end up putting us in limitation on God. And that's where you hear things well, people expect you that by this stage maybe you should have a car, or maybe by this stage you have 2 children, or maybe people expect that you should be married by now. And there are so many things that people around you, they keep saying. They keep saying it. Well, at this age maybe you're supposed to be a CEO or should be having a Lamborghini or something. So when you hear these kind of things coming from people from all around you, you also start feeling that, well, I'm being left behind, or maybe if I don't do this at this particular time, that thing has passed for me. And that's the kind of limitation that the world has been giving to us. But actually, I think that as children of God, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be placed in this kind of limitation. We shouldn't push it onto God, because your spirit is eternal, and God himself is also eternal. So placing a limitation of time or of seasons on God is something that shouldn't be done amongst us as Christians, right? Anyway, it is even kind of surprising that when you hear of people talking about all these things, they don't even tell you about how many people have died at your age. As in, how much blessed you are now that you are even here, and the fact that you are alive, God can still do whatever he wants to do for you, right? If you look at a case like the case of Sarah, when God gave the promise to Abraham and she heard it, she was very skeptical, and she even laughed, which of course is not so surprising, because according to our human time and our seasons, her reproductive years was over. And of course, if your reproductive years are over, for human beings, we know we can't get it back. So it was a very logical thing for her to have laughed at that particular time, when God said that Abraham is going to be the father of many nations. And you know at that time she was like, I know she was like 90 years old, right? That's 90 years. So it means that for her, I don't know how many years late. I don't know much about all those things, those cycles and all that. But maybe I think maybe like about 30 years late or something. I don't know. But according to her, see how many years? About like 30 years late. And it happens to us too. It happens a lot to us too when we are making our plans. Maybe you had an intention for God to answer a prayer for you because you wanted to use it in doing something. Maybe last year or I don't know when you planned on using it. So when that thing passes, you also feel that because of that purpose that you had, that you wanted to fulfill, has passed forever. Well, let's go ahead and continue. We'll see if God can actually be limited by time. Well, actually, the reason why God can never be late is that God can restore the effects of lost time. All those things that you thought you had lost because the deadline has set at past, God can restore all of that. If you look at this story of Lazarus, right? All those 4 days that they have been mourning and all those sadness that they had experienced because of that 4 days, God gave them even greater joy than they had. And on top of that, God also used it to serve a purpose. Many people believe because of that. And even see a whole chapter has been given to write to talk about this story, which of course is also an honor to him himself, right? And we also know what happened with the story of Sarah. In the end, everything that God said will happen really happened. So it means that God restored all those lost years I don't know how many years that she had lost because her reproductive years are over. God restored all those years to her. So this thing about God restoring lost time, as in if you have been praying about something and you didn't get it, or you feel that the particular time you're supposed to get it has passed and because of that you have stopped praying, just the same way as God restored those 4 days, those lost 4 days, right? It's the same way that God can restore that lost time that you think that you have lost. It may be in your life. I don't know, maybe in your life you have made a certain decision at a particular time that you regret, or you just feel that decision set you on the wrong path. And today you feel that so many years have passed and because of that you can't get back on track. Actually, God declared in the book of Joel. There's a verse that is one of the favorite verses of one of these tele-evangelists. His name is Rabbi Zachariah. I want us to read Joel chapter 2 verse 25. To read this statement, Joel chapter 2 verse 25.
And I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten.
Yeah.
The cankerworm and the caterpillar, and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you.
Wow. Thank you very much. He said he can restore the years which the locusts have eaten. All the years. That's all the years that you feel that you had wasted. All those time, I don't know how long it is, but all those time that you feel that you could have done something you didn't do, and because of that, like you are lost, or because of that you can't get back on track. God said he can restore all that time. If you look at even Sarah, like we have already said, God restored all those years of, I don't know, ridicule, or all those years of desperation, of that period when she felt that everything was over, when her reproductive years was over. And it even led her to even be skeptical of what God said. She thought God was coming too late. The statement was too late. Yeah, in the same way, if it doesn't matter how long, just like Brother Ben said last week about dry bones, no matter how dry it is, God can put life into it. Yeah, so it's the same way that whatever they have been praying for, you should go back to it and you should continue praying for it. Because with God, there's nothing like laziness. And like when God seems to delay, he always seems to have, you know what I'm saying, but he always has a reason why he delays. It always serves a purpose. Okay, so first of all, I'd like us to look at one very nice verse. I think that verse really, it changed the way I view life about. It's in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. For those of
Many.
you. Thank you.
1921. 1921, right?
Yeah, 19 verse 21.
Many schemes are in a man's mind, but the counsel of the Lord shall stand.
Yeah, I think some verses say for the purpose of the Lord. Yeah. I think that's he didn't say the purpose. Well, I'm sure that every one of us here, we have a lot of dreams. Like we have so many dreams that we want to come to pass. Me, I have a lot of dreams. There are so many, and it's the same with all of us. Like we are meant to dream. That's what God created us that we should also create. And you can't create if you don't dream. So we have so many plans in us right now, right? But the word of God is saying that is the purpose, or the counsel of the Lord that shall prevail. And this one is something very hard to swallow, because I was looking at it and I felt like, what's the use of me dreaming or me having plans if in the end it's God's purpose that is going to prevail? Does it mean that I should just sit down and I shouldn't do anything and I should wait for God to come and put that purpose in my hands so it happens? Well, that's not exactly what it is trying to say. What it's saying is that everything that you are going to do in your life, God is going to make sure that it fits within His purpose. As in, if you have a purpose of being, like let's say, an engineer, or had any dream of being a doctor, I don't know whatever you want to be in the future. God, as a child of God, God is going to make sure that that thing is going to bless you with. It's also going to glorify His name. You are supposed to use that to serve people. You are supposed to use that to advance the word of God. And the way it is that this life we are living is not really about us. It's about God. So when you are making plans, what this verse is saying that when you are making plans, always make sure that God is in your plans. Always make sure that you know what you are going to do for God using that thing that God is going to give to you. If you don't have any such plans for glorifying God with anything at all you ask God, I'm sorry, but it's going to be in conflict with the purpose of God. And that's when sometimes you will be asking for it and it's going to be delayed. Or you may not even get it at the time you want, or it may not come. And that's because some of the things that we ask is in conflict with the purpose of God. So I would like to encourage all of us that all the plans we have, all the prayer requests, everything, every dream you have, make sure that you include the glory of God in it, include God in it. Make sure that you have plans in using that thing to glorify God. And that's when I'm telling you, if everything you want to do has plans of glorifying God, that you are going to see a very big difference in what God does for you. And also, whenever anything happens, you'll not be surprised. You'll not be surprised at all. Because God always has a way of making that planned purpose that He has for you. He has a way of making it happen. Even when you think that the time has already passed, He always has a way of making it happen. Okay, so that's one encouragement that I really like to encourage you with. And also, whatever we do whilst you are waiting for God to answer a prayer for us is very, very important. Because most of the time, like we use our own eyes to look at something and we say, oh, this thing is good, this plan of having is good. So definitely God should want that it should happen. We feel that it should be like that. So when we realize that thing is not about to happen, or something is about to prevent that thing from happening, then we start trying to help God. Like we just feel like, we have to do something we have to make it happen. You see, it happens in many ways. In many ways. That's why sometimes you see people who are Christians, like they are occupying high places in office and all that. Or like let's say, let me just say, you see Christians, right, who believe that they can serve people by occupying high places in office. So you want to make sure that by hook or crook they are going to get into that place. And we have other cases where you know that maybe you want something you feel is good. Maybe you want a certain blessing in your life, in school or wherever, and you are praying to God about it. And now the thing is coming and you feel like, no, this thing is too difficult. So let me cheat a little. By praying, when you go and pray, you go and thank God that God did it for you. But it's like the same way you are trying to help God to do it for you. That's the fact. And just look at the case of Sarah, right? Sarah, after God had promised her that this was going to happen, you realize that later on, Sarah felt that she could help God to make it happen. That's why he said, okay, maybe this nation you are going to have is going to be through Hagar. So she gave Hagar to him, and in the end, you realize that she herself didn't even like the results, right? Because she was trying to help God to make that thing happen. But it's not like we should keep in mind, right? We should keep in mind that wherever God is going to take you to is the end place that is taking you to that matters. Amen. Right? Yeah. So the place you are going to pass to get there, don't be thinking of getting the perfect conditions for yourself. Because like they said, God is looking at the purpose. The purpose is always at the end point, right? So God knows where He's taking you to. So when you are praying and you are trying to live for God, and even though you are living for God, things are not going well, please don't start thinking of helping God to make the things happen for you. I think it's a very important thing to that, like, we should learn about. Okay, so from today onwards, I want us to develop this way of thinking and this way of living, right? That whenever you feel pressured to, like, you feel pressured to catch up to a certain target, or you feel pressured to meet certain standards or certain deadlines that people have set for you, and you feel like an outcast because people expect you to be at a certain place and are not there yet, and so you want to catch up to, so they'll stop seeing you as being behind. I want you to keep in mind that as Christians, we don't run our time according to the watches and the calendars and the seasons and all that. Always keep in mind that we are running according to God's time. And with God's time, you can never be late. So I want us to keep that in our mind. Okay, like I said, like, the message is going to be short, and hopefully it's going to bless all of you. Okay, so yeah, this is what I have to share with you. I hope you are all blessed. Bye. I will follow you.